What if the very thing that makes you successful is the same thing keeping you trapped? Not weakness, not desperation, not a lack of self-respect. Intelligence, the ability to analyze, to understand, to solve problems, to see complexity where others see simplicity. Because the people most likely to become trapped in toxic relationships are often not the most impulsive. They're the most thoughtful, the most reflective, the most emotionally aware. The people who can explain human behavior in extraordinary detail. And that's exactly why they stay. Because they don't experience relational chaos the way most people do. When someone else sees a warning sign, they see a puzzle. When someone else sees a pattern, they see potential. When someone else walks away, they become curious. They start asking questions. Why are they acting this way? What happened to them? What trauma created this behavior? What am I missing? And without realizing it, they begin treating emotional pain like an intellectual challenge. The relationship stops being a relationship. It becomes a problem to solve, a mystery to decode, a project to complete. And that's where the trap begins. Because some relationships improve when you understand them better. Others survive because you keep trying to understand them. And if you're not careful, years of emotional exhaustion can disguise themselves as personal growth. You tell yourself you're learning patience. You tell yourself you're becoming more compassionate. You tell yourself you're evolving. But what if you're not evolving? What if you're simply becoming better at explaining away your own suffering? Today, we're exposing the psychological trap that keeps intelligent people stuck in unhealthy relationships long after they should have left. We're going to look at why analytical minds confuse emotional turmoil with growth, why empathy becomes a weapon turned against the self, and why resilience, one of your greatest strengths, can quietly become your greatest liability. Because the most dangerous trap isn't failing to see the problem. It's seeing it clearly and convincing yourself that understanding it is enough. Act 1, the problem solver paradox. Imagine two people entering the same difficult relationship. The first person experiences constant emotional inconsistency, mixed signals, broken promises, repeated disappointments. After a while, they think, "This isn't working," and they leave. The second person experiences the exact same behavior. But instead of asking whether the relationship is healthy, they ask a different question. Why is this happening? At first, that sounds reasonable. In fact, it sounds mature, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent. But pay attention, because this is where the path begins to split. The moment your focus shifts from evaluating the relationship to analyzing the relationship, something changes. You're no longer measuring reality. You're studying it. And those are not the same thing. High achievers are especially vulnerable to this. Why? Because their entire lives have rewarded persistence. When something doesn't work, they don't quit. They learn more. They work harder. They adapt. They improve. The difficult exam becomes a challenge. The struggling business becomes a challenge. The impossible goal becomes a challenge. Over and over again, life teaches them a powerful lesson. Complex problems can be solved. And usually that's true. But relationships don't always follow the same rules. Because some problems are not waiting for a better solution. They're revealing a reality. And one of the hardest lessons intelligent people learn is that understanding a problem doesn't automatically change it. You can understand exactly why someone lies. That doesn't stop them from lying. You can understand exactly why someone avoids accountability. That doesn't make them accountable. You can understand exactly why someone keeps hurting you. That doesn't stop the hurt. But analytical minds often struggle with this distinction because understanding feels productive. It feels like progress. It feels like movement, even when nothing is actually changing. And here's where things get dangerous. The brain loves unfinished puzzles. Psychologists sometimes refer to this tendency as our attraction to unresolved problems. The mind keeps returning to what it hasn't solved, not because it's important, but because it's incomplete. Think about that. You may not be attached to the relationship. You may be attached to solving the relationship. Those are very different things. And once your brain starts treating another person's behavior like a puzzle, every new piece of information becomes rewarding. A late-night conversation, a breakthrough moment, a vulnerable confession, a promise to change. Suddenly, you feel hopeful again. Not because the relationship improved, but because you discovered a new clue. And clues feel like progress, even when they're not. The dopamine of cracking the code. Have you ever noticed how some people become obsessed with figuring someone out? They spend hours replaying conversations, analyzing text messages, interpreting tiny shifts in behavior, searching for hidden meaning. They become investigators in their own emotional lives. Every interaction becomes evidence. Every conflict becomes a case study. Every disappointment becomes another piece of data. And the more intelligent they are, the more sophisticated the analysis becomes. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your ability to explain a person's behavior can create the illusion that you're moving closer to a solution. Sometimes you're just moving deeper into the maze. Because while you're busy understanding them, you're no longer evaluating whether the relationship is healthy for you. You're gathering information, creating theories, building narratives, constructing explanations, and all of that activity feels productive. But activity and progress are not the same thing. Read that again. Activity and progress are not the same thing. You can spend years actively analyzing a relationship that has no intention of becoming healthier. And this leads to one of the most dangerous sentences intelligent people tell themselves. A sentence that sounds wise, compassionate, even noble, but quietly keeps them trapped for years. We'll come back to that sentence in a moment. Because before we can understand why it becomes so powerful, we need to examine something even deeper. The way analytical people transform emotional pain into evidence of personal growth. And once you see this mechanism, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Not just in relationships, but in careers, friendships, family dynamics, and even the relationship you have with yourself. Because sometimes the smartest people in the room aren't trapped by ignorance. They're trapped by explanations. And that's where the next layer of this psychological trap begins. Act 2, the intellectualization of pain. Let's return to something you might not have noticed. At some point, the relationship stopped feeling like a relationship and started feeling like a system. Something to decode. Something to optimize. Something to understand deeply enough that it finally makes sense. And this is where intelligent people begin to drift into one of the most subtle traps in human psychology. They start intellectualizing emotional pain, not avoiding it, not denying it, but translating it, turning it into language they can manage, concepts they can hold, theories they can survive inside of. So instead of saying, "This hurts me," they say, "This is a complex dynamic." Instead of saying, "I feel neglected," They say, "This is an attachment pattern playing out," instead of saying, "This is not healthy for me." They say, "This is a growth phase." And notice what just happened. The emotional truth didn't disappear. It was simply rewritten into something more acceptable to an analytical mind. Because emotional pain is messy, but intellectual explanations feel controlled, structured, safe, and for high achievers, control is familiar. Control is home. So without realizing it, they begin to convert emotional chaos into intellectual order. Not to heal it, but to survive it. Here's the uncomfortable question. What if your intelligence isn't helping you escape the situation? What if it's helping you stay inside it longer? Because the more you understand something, the harder it becomes to accept that it doesn't improve. Understanding creates attachment. Explanation creates patience. And patience, when misapplied, becomes endurance. Not the healthy kind. The kind that slowly drains you while convincing you that you're still growing. The growth illusion. One of the most dangerous phrases in modern emotional language is this: "I'm learning a lot from this." It sounds mature. It sounds reflective. It sounds like progress. But it can hide something much more uncomfortable. Because learning is not always a sign of growth. Sometimes it is a sign of prolonged exposure to something harmful. Think about it. You can learn a lot from a fire. That doesn't mean you should keep your hand inside it. Yet many high achievers stay in relationships far beyond their emotional limit because they can point to what they are learning. Patience, resilience, understanding human complexity, emotional intelligence. But the real question is not, what are you learning? The real question is, what is it costing you to learn it? Weaponize empathy. Now we go deeper. This is where empathy stops being a gift and starts becoming a trap. High achievers are often deeply empathetic. They can understand trauma. They can understand inconsistency. They can understand emotional avoidance. They can understand almost anything about another person's behavior. And that becomes dangerous when combined with loyalty. Because understanding someone's pain often creates a silent contract. If I understand you, I should stay with you. If I see why you are broken, I should not leave you. If I can explain your behavior, I should not abandon you. But here's the truth most people never say out loud. Understanding someone does not equal responsibility for fixing them. Yet analytical minds often blur that line. They become the interpreter of someone else's chaos, the translator of someone else's wounds, the unpaid emotional analyst in a relationship that is not healing. And slowly something shifts. You stop asking, "Is this relationship good for me?" and start asking, "How can I make this work?" That shift feels responsible, even noble, but it quietly removes one critical boundary: your own emotional well-being. The narrative trap. Now the mind begins to build a story, a powerful one, because humans don't just experience relationships, they narrate them. And high achievers are especially skilled at creating meaning from complexity. So the story becomes, they're not bad, they're just hurt. This is difficult but meaningful. This relationship is teaching me patience and depth. I'm one breakthrough away from things improving. And slowly, the relationship stops being evaluated in real time. It becomes a narrative you are committed to completing. But here, the hidden danger. You are no longer living inside the relationship. You are living inside the story of the relationship. And stories are powerful. They give pain structure. They give confusion meaning. They give endurance purpose. But they also delay decisions. Earlier we left something unfinished. That sentence, intelligent people repeat to themselves when they are stuck. Here it is. I just need to understand them better. It sounds harmless, even compassionate, but it hides a deeper assumption. That understanding will eventually lead to change. And in healthy relationships, that is often true. But in unhealthy patterns, understanding simply leads to deeper endurance. Because the more you understand, the more exceptions you make. The more exceptions you make, the longer you stay. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to see clearly. So instead of clarity creating action, clarity becomes justification. At this point, something subtle happens inside the mind. A resistance forms. Because if what you are hearing is true, then intelligence is not protecting you. It is negotiating your exit. And that realization creates tension, because it challenges the identity of the rational one, the self-aware one, the understanding one. But clarity without action is not wisdom. It is suspension. And in the final part of this breakdown, we are going to examine how this suspension becomes identity, and how high achievers don't just stay in toxic relationships. They start becoming the person who stays. Act 3, the sunk cost of resilience. At this stage, something subtle has already happened. The relationship is no longer just something you are in. It has become something you have invested in. Time, energy, emotional labor, understanding, endless interpretation. And the mind does something almost automatic here. It starts protecting the investment, not because the relationship is good, but because the cost of leaving now feels too high. This is the sunk cost effect. And in relationships, it rarely shows up as money. It shows up as history. I've already been through too much to leave now. I can't just give up after everything I've understood. I've come too far to walk away empty-handed. But notice what this really means. You are not staying because it is healthy. You are staying because it is familiar. Identity fusion. And now something deeper begins to form. You are no longer just someone trying to fix a relationship. You are becoming the person who can handle it. The strong one, the patient one, the understanding one, the one who doesn't give up easily. At first, this sounds like strength, but over time, it becomes identity. And identity is harder to leave than relationships, because now leaving the relationship doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like a contradiction. If I leave, was I wrong to stay this long? If I leave, what does that say about my patience, my loyalty, my intelligence? So instead of questioning the relationship, you begin protecting the version of yourself that stayed in it. And that is how the trap deepens, not through weakness, but through identity preservation. Here is a question most people avoid asking. At what point does resilience stop being strength and start becoming self-neglect? Because resilience is praised in almost every area of life. But in emotional systems, resilience without boundaries becomes endurance of damage. And there is a difference, a critical one, the breakdown of clarity. Over time, something else begins to happen. Your internal clarity starts to blur. Not because you don't see the problem, but because you've explained it too many times. You've rationalized it, interpreted it, contextualized it, reframed it, and every explanation softens the edge of reality. So what was once obvious becomes debatable. What was once a clear boundary becomes a negotiation. What was once pain becomes complexity. This is how intelligent minds lose clarity. Not through ignorance, but through overanalysis. So how do you get out? Not by finding a better explanation. Not by understanding more. Not by solving the other person. You exit the loop by changing the question. Because while you were asking, why are they like this? And how do I fix this? You were avoiding the only question that matters. What is this doing to me? That question removes theory. It removes narrative. It removes complexity and replaces it with reality. Because your nervous system does not respond to explanations. It responds to experience. The final shift. Here is the final truth this entire breakdown leads to. You do not stay in toxic relationships because you are confused. You stay because you are highly skilled at making sense of confusion. But clarity is not enough. At some point, clarity must become decision. Not analysis. Not interpretation. Not understanding. Decision. And that decision will often feel uncomfortable because it will not match the story you built. It will not match the identity you formed. It will not match the intelligence you used to survive it. But it will match reality. So if you recognize yourself in this pattern, don't rush to judge it. This is not a failure of intelligence. It is intelligence applied to the wrong system. Because some environments reward understanding, and others require boundaries. And the hardest lesson for high achievers is this. Not everything that can be understood is meant to be endured. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is to stop analyzing your way out and start choosing your way out. Because at the end of the day, your life does not improve when you understand more. It improves when you act differently. And that is where real growth begins.